Hello, my name is Tanisha McFarlane, and in this video I'll be going over the 5 applications I developed for my assignment. These 5 applications are the Button Interactions app, the Radio Button and Spinner Interactions app, the Catalogue of Items app, the Login Screen app, and the Calculator with Chain Operations app. Button Interactions. The function of this task was for me to learn how to use Android Studio, and this simple applications of 5 buttons was a good introduction to button interactions and coding in Java. As a basic app, it has 4 buttons in each corner, with one in the center being an image. After each button is pressed, a text box appears either in the center, top, or bottom of the app, depending on the button pressed. The text also says which button was pressed. I didn't come across any errors when programming this app, though I wish I was able to have the text box fade in and out for a polished look. This was the only section of the app that I struggled with. Line 40 to 43 allowed for me to create a constraint layout variable and change its values depending on the button pressed, adjust the location of the text box. Moving on to the radio button and interaction spinner app. I decided to theme this task after video game consoles and franchises. The main focus on developing this app was on getting the radio buttons to interact with the spinner. You click on any radio button, select a gaming franchise, and press the submit button, then it displays your selection. To develop the app, I created string arrays within the string.xml file, containing video game franchises for each console. Then, using a listener and the strings.xml file, when a radio button was pressed, the correct list of items showed up in the spinner, allowing the user to select them. Lastly, the submit button will read what's selected and text will display. I didn't come across any errors or bugs during the development of this app. The tricky part was learning what tools I should use. This was the section that used a listener and array adapter. Line 49 and 52 allowed me to select which list of arrays to select from the strings.xml file, then apply it to the spinner. Moving on to the Catalogue of Items app. I decided to theme this task after Orthodox Christian saints, whom you could click on and read about their lives. This was the most fun app to work on. The app is made of 2 activities. The first is the Catalogue of the Saints, each with their name and image. Then once you've clicked on a saint, it displays their image in full, along with a writing of their life. At the bottom, you have the Go Back button, which returns the user to the first activity again. This app was fun to make because the second activity is dynamically populated with information depending on the saint selected, instead of each saint having their own activity to switch to when selected. Here is the information on the saints. Line 45 is the intent variable I used to transition from the main activity to the second. Lines 46 to 48 is how I passed the saints' data into the second activity, their name, their description, and their image. Line 49 is how I swapped activities. These lines of code is how I populated the second activity with the data from the first activity. Moving on to the Catalogue of Items app. No, Login Screen app. The function of this task was for me to learn how to have a functioning login screen with login attempts. You have 3 attempts to log in, and if you fail the last attempt, the app shut down. But if you put in the correct data, the activity will switch to a success screen. In developing this app, I learned how to read the input data of text input layouts. These lines are executed when the login button is pressed. Depending on the user inputs, there are 3 outcomes of pressing the button. If the user entered the correct username and password, a toast is made and the activity swaps to the next one. If the user fails the username and password, they have one less attempt and a toast saying wrong credentials is presented. Lastly, if the user fails on their last attempt, the app will close. Moving on to the calculator with Chains of Operations app. The purpose of this app was to carry out mathematical calculations using the common operations such as multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division. It works by using a function that reads the text of each button pressed, and when the equals button is pressed, a dependency will carry calculations of the operation. In developing this app, I learned how to add dependencies. This is the dependency I added to calculate inputs from the user. Using the dependencies on line 125, it calculates what the user has inputted. The results would show up as whole numbers with decimal points, so line 127 removes the extra decimal point. If I could develop this app again, I would try to improve the system of limiting the decimal points. At the moment, it only allows for 1 in a whole line, rather than limiting it to 1 number each. Thank you for watching the video explanation of my assessment.